My husband passed away recently, and I'm still trying to make sense of the loss. It feels like part of me has been ripped away. Everything in life feels different now, quieter, emptier. He was my partner, my support, my home, and now he's gone. Since his passing, it's just been me and my stepdaughter. That in itself has been its own kind of challenge. Our relationship has always been complicated. To be honest, she's never really accepted me, not even from the beginning. There's always been a wall between us that I've never quite known how to break down. For context, my stepdaughter's biological mother walked out on her and my husband when she was still very young. She left in the middle of the night, no goodbye, just a note saying she couldn't do this anymore. Just like that, gone. My husband became a single father overnight, left to raise his daughter on his own and pick up the emotional pieces. When I came into their lives years later, I never tried to replace her mother. I just wanted to love him, support them both, build a life together, and my husband and I did fall deeply in love. But my stepdaughter couldn't accept our relationship. She was always cold and mean to me. She would give me the silent treatment for months, refusing to acknowledge my presence in her dad's life. She'd go out of her way to exclude me from things, like planning something special for her dad's birthday and not telling me, or deliberately inviting him to things and making it sound like I wasn't welcome. After her dad and I moved in together, things got even worse. She would leave pictures of her biological mother around the house, old ones. I know I hadn't been out in years. One time, she even placed a framed photo of the three of them, her dad, and her mother, right in the center of the living room where she knew I'd see it. She would constantly tell me things like I was an unwelcome presence in her life. She'd twist conversations too, often trying to stir up conflict between me and her father. She'd casually mention things I supposedly said about him or complain about things I never did, trying to plant seeds of doubt in our relationship. She would smile at her dad in one moment, and then as soon as he turned away, her face would go completely blank or cold when she looked at me, like I was just something she had to tolerate until I finally gave up and left. She wanted to break us, me and her father. I saw it, felt it. She tried everything she could to drive a wedge between us, whether through manipulation, silence, or outright hostility. And through it all, I kept trying. I tried to stay kind. I tried to make space for her pain. I tried to understand where it all came from. But nothing I did ever seemed good enough or even noticed. One day, she eventually admitted to her dad that she had been holding on to the hope that her biological mother would come back. That somehow, after all the years of silence and abandonment, her mother would return and they'd be a family again, just the three of them. Her dad, and the woman who left them in the middle of the night with nothing but a note. Even though her mother never called, never wrote, never so much as asked how she was, my stepdaughter kept believing that one day the door would open and she'd walk back in. And I, by simply existing in her father's life, was the living reminder that the dream she had been clinging to wasn't going to come true. My husband tried his best to make her understand. He told her that while he understood where she was coming from, she also needed to understand that her mother left both of them, and he deserved to be happy now, that he had mourned their old life long enough and had moved forward, and that he had finally found love again with me. He tried to make her see that he deserved to have a second chance at life too, but she couldn't accept it. She erupted in anger. She threw a fit like nothing I had ever seen before. Screaming, sobbing, slamming doors, and then in the middle of the night she decided to run away. At first, we thought maybe she was at a friend's house and would be back within a few hours. But hours turned into a day and she was nowhere to be seen. We called everyone, her friends, their parents, anyone who might have seen her. Nothing. My husband was frantic. I was terrified. We finally called the police and a search was launched. 2 days passed of not knowing if she was safe, if she was hurt, if she was alone. Then finally she was found camping out in a nearby forest. She'd taken a sleeping bag, some snacks, water, and a flashlight. This was all pre-planned. When we found her, she refused to come back, saying that she wanted to protest against the life my husband and I were building together. Her running away from the house was her way of saying, I won't accept this. She wanted us to worry. She wanted to make a point, and she did. She scared everyone. Most of all, she scared her father. After that incident, my husband finally started to see things clearly. I think that was the moment he truly began to see just how unhealthy her behavior had become. He'd always tried to be understanding, always tried to give her space, to be gentle and patient. But watching his daughter literally disappear into the woods as a form of protest against him trying to move forward with his life, it shook him. He decided to get her into therapy, which wasn't easy. She fought it at first, of course. She said it was pointless, said we were trying to fix her, said she wasn't the problem, but he held firm. For the first time, he really drew a line and said, this is happening because I love you, and something has to change. And over time, very slowly, something did begin to shift. Therapy gave my stepdaughter a space to put down some of the weight she'd been carrying for so long. It didn't transform her overnight, but little by little, she did begin to soften. She didn't roll her eyes at me as often. She'd say good night, sometimes even ask about my day. Eventually, she came around enough to not only tolerate, but support the idea of her father and me getting married. When we did get married, she was there for our happy day. She smiled in pictures. She attended the wedding. She started calling me by my first name without that tone in her voice. But deep down, I could still feel it, that guardedness, that sense that no matter how much progress we made, I would always be a stand-in. Never her mother, never quite real in her eyes. Even though I've done so much for her over the years, it's like none of it really counts in her eyes. I cook for her everyday meals, special dinners when she's had a rough week, birthday cakes, comfort food when she's sick. I've helped pay for her education, made sure her school fees were covered, bought her supplies and stayed up late, helping her with projects when she was stressed. I even bought her first car when she turned 16 because I wanted her to feel supported and have a little freedom. I've done her laundry, even the gross, sweaty clothes from gym class or pile of socks she leaves under her bed. I have never complained. I just do it because I care. I've sat through every school play, every talent show, even when she only had one line or stood in the back. Her father never attended as he was busy at work, but I would make time out of my busy work schedule and make sure to be there for her. I always clapped the loudest. I have always been proud of her. I always showed up. And yet, despite all of that, she still reminds me in one way or another that I'm not her real mother. She says it as if she's trying to make sure I never forget. And honestly, I never did forget. I always knew. I was never trying to take that place, but it still hurts to hear those words from her. Now, with my husband gone, things have become extra difficult at home. She kind of blames me for her father's death, even though he died due to a brain tumor, one that couldn't be removed or treated. We caught it as early as we could. We got opinions from the best doctors in the country. We went to specialists, explored every option, and asked every hard question. They all told us the same thing. There was nothing that could be done to save him. We knew for a few months that he was dying. We had time to prepare, or at least we tried. But even with that warning, nothing really prepares you for the end. She's grieving, I know. She's angry, confused, heartbroken, and in her mind, someone has to take the blame, and that someone is me. She has yelled at me for her father's death, accused me of not doing enough for him, as if I could have saved him if I had just tried harder, looked harder, done more, as if I wanted this, as if I didn't lose the love of my life too. Sometimes she's also screamed at me that she wishes I had died instead of him. She said that more than once, and every time she says it, it feels like another piece of me breaks. I just don't understand how she can do that to me. No matter how many years we've lived under the same roof, no matter what I've done for her, no matter how much I've tried to be there, it's like I still mean nothing to her. But I try to be patient. I keep telling myself that it's the grief talking, that she's in pain and doesn't know how to deal with it, so she lashes out at the one person she thinks is safe to hurt. That eventually she will realize I'm not the enemy. That one day she might stop blaming me, maybe even see how much I keep trying, how much I still care. Yesterday, something happened that shook me to my core. I was doing something completely ordinary, cleaning my stepdaughter's room, tidying up like I always do. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't trying to invade her space. I was just doing what I usually do, trying to keep things in order, trying to keep the house running, trying to show I still care. That's when I saw it. There was a letter sitting on her desk. It had already been opened. The envelope torn at the top. I didn't think much of it at first. I assumed it was just another school paper or a card from a friend. But then I noticed the handwriting. It was his, my husband's. It was like the air got knocked out of my lungs. I hadn't seen his handwriting in so long. Something about it, just the way he wrote her name. It stopped me in my tracks. I picked it up almost without thinking, like it was something sacred. I miss him so much. I would give anything to hear his voice again, to feel close to him, even if only through ink on paper. So I read it, and what I read has left me completely shaken. In the letter I found, written in his own hand, left only for her, my husband, the man I loved and built a life with, confessed that all his life he has always been in love with his ex-wife, my stepdaughter's mother, the woman who left him, the woman who left him in the middle of the night with only a note, the woman who never came back. He wrote about her in detail, with longing, with grief. He said he had always thought about her, that in his final weeks, when I was the one sitting beside him holding his hand, managing his medications, wiping his forehead during the fevers, he wished she were there with him instead of me. I had to read that sentence over and over. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It felt like my heart stopped beating, like I was reading about someone else's life, some stranger's tragedy, but it was mine. And he didn't stop there. He went on to tell my stepdaughter that he understood. She didn't like me, that he knew things between us might get even worse after he died. But what he said next cut even deeper than anything else. He told her to stick it out, to put up with me, because I had the money, because I had the resources to put her through college, because I could give her a stable life. It's like he was advising her to stick with me just because of my bank account, as if I were only just a convenience, not a person, not his wife, not someone who had stood by him through his illness, who had really tried to be a part of his daughter's life, even when it felt like I was pushing against a wall that never moved. I can't explain what it feels like to read those words. It's like he has died all over again for me. Only this time he took a piece of me with him that I'm not sure I'll get back. I thought we had something real. I thought despite all the challenges, despite all the heartache with his daughter, that what he and I shared was love. I thought I mattered, that I had made a difference in his life. In all the late nights I've spent crying over him, missing him, talking to the air like maybe his spirit could still hear me, I never, not in my worst thoughts, imagined this was hiding in the silence he left behind. But now I don't know what to think. This letter has rewritten the story I've been telling myself. It's made me question every memory, every kiss, every promise. It's true, I always earned more than my husband. That was just the reality of our lives. I never held it over him, never made him feel small for it. At least I thought I hadn't. But I knew deep down it sometimes bothered him. He would get quiet when I paid for something big. He'd brush off conversations about money or quickly change the subject when I offered to help with something financially. Still, I believed that love made up for those insecurities. I believed we had a partnership, that we were building something together. But now, after reading that letter, his last words to his daughter, I'm left wondering if that belief was ever real. The idea that he might have married me not out of love, not because of who I am as a person, but because I could provide stability and security, makes me feel sick. For him to write those words and to reduce our life together to money and resources, especially in a letter to someone who already resents me, feels like a slap in the face. Feels humiliating. It makes me question everything. Was I just a provider to him? A solution to a practical problem? A safe option to ensure his daughter would be taken care of? Did he see me as a person or just a plan? And if that's how he saw me, how did I miss it? How could I have loved someone who in the end didn't see me the way I saw him? How did I not see the cracks in our marriage for what they were? I keep going over every memory, looking for any signs I missed. It's hard not to feel foolish. It's hard not to feel used. Since I found that letter, I've been crying more than I ever thought possible. Here I was, doing everything I could to care for his daughter, thinking about her future while he was basically telling her to use me. I don't even know what to say anymore. I want to talk to my stepdaughter about the letter, to understand how she feels, but I'm scared. What if she gets angry at me for reading it? What if she turns against me and blames me even more? I'm caught between wanting to be honest and wanting to protect myself from more pain. AITA, update 1. Since I posted about finding my husband's letter, I've been overwhelmed not just by my own feelings, but by the questions people keep asking me. I want to share a few of the questions I've been hearing most often, along with my answers. Question: did you ever suspect your husband still loved his ex? Honestly, no. I knew he had complicated feelings about his past, but I believed our marriage was real, that we had built something together. I never thought he would admit, especially in his last letter, that he wished she had been there instead of me. It feels like a punch in the gut. Question: why didn't you talk to your husband about it before he passed? That's what haunts me the most. I wish I had known. I wish he had told me how he really felt, but he never did. We weren't perfect. We had problems, sure, but I always thought we were honest with each other. Finding this letter after he died, it feels like a betrayal and a loss all at once. Question: do you think it was wrong to read the letter? Yes, I understand I probably shouldn't have read it. It wasn't meant for me. It was a private note from my husband to his daughter. But in that moment, I didn't think of it as an invasion. I saw his handwriting and I just missed him. I thought it would be comforting to read his words again. Instead, it turned my world upside down. As painful as it's been, the letter was an eye-opener. If I hadn't read it, I would have gone on loving his memory, believing a version of our life together that wasn't entirely true. Question: what about your stepdaughter? Have you talked to her about the letter? I want to, but I'm scared. I don't want to make things worse between us or have her get mad that I read something meant for her. She's already angry and hurting, and I don't want to push her further away. I'm trying to find the right time and the right words. Question. Did you ever legally adopt your stepdaughter? No. I've never formally adopted her. It was something we talked about a few times, but it never happened. Still, my husband did name me as her legal guardian in his will after he passed. So now, in the eyes of the law, I'm responsible for her care and well-being, even though emotionally, it's always been complicated between us. Question. How are you holding up? Some days are better than others, and some days I can breathe and feel okay. Other days I cry and wonder how I'll ever get through this. I'm trying to be gentle with myself and to remind myself that it's okay to feel hurt and confused. I'm taking it one day at a time. Update 2. I finally decided it was time to sit down and talk to my stepdaughter. It wasn't easy. I had been carrying around so much grief, confusion, anger, and I didn't want those emotions to come spilling out all at once. But I knew I couldn't keep everything bottled up forever. She's going to college next year, and lately she's had her heart set on a very expensive university. She talks about it all the time, about the dorms, the campus, the city it's in, the new beginnings she's dreaming of. And for the longest time, the unspoken plan was that I would pay for it, just like I've paid for almost everything else. Of course, that's what she and her dad expected. They always knew I had a stable income. And to be honest, her father was never good with money. He didn't save. He didn't plan ahead. That part of our relationship was always a bit of a sore spot. He'd spend without thinking, and I was usually the one picking up the pieces. But I never held that against him, and I never held it against her either. I've always stepped up without hesitation. I bought her first car. I paid for her school fees. I made sure she had everything she needed, not because anyone told me to, but because I loved her and saw her as my own. I never wanted her to feel like she had less just because I wasn't her biological mom. But since finding that letter, everything feels different now. I sat her down and told her as gently as I could that I wouldn't be able to pay for her university tuition. I explained that things have changed, especially since her father passed away. I said that if she still wanted to go to that very expensive college she's been dreaming of, she would have to work hard to make it happen, either by applying for scholarships or by looking into other schools that had lower tuition fees. I made it clear that I wasn't trying to take anything away from her, but I just couldn't carry this all on my own anymore. The moment the words left my mouth, I could see her whole expression shift. She looked completely caught off guard and then instantly got defensive. She raised her voice and started to say how it wasn't fair for me to ask her to do this, and she reminded me of all the plans we had made earlier, how her dad had already convinced me to pay for her college, and how she had counted on me to honor my promise to him. I told her that I understood her frustration, but that wasn't a fair way, and both she and her father had assumed I would just take care of everything. I reminded her that her dad hadn't saved anything for her, not even a little. He had no college fund, no backup plan, nothing. And somehow, without ever really talking about it, it was just expected that I would be the one to handle it all. I told her that I would continue to take care of her basic needs, food, housing, clothing, the essentials. That much wouldn't change. But anything beyond that, like college expenses, trips, or anything extra, she would need to take responsibility for. I told her it was time for her to start thinking seriously about getting a part-time job or applying for financial aid or scholarships. I wasn't shutting the door on her future, but I also wasn't going to keep handing everything over while being treated like I didn't matter. As soon as those words left my mouth, she jumped out of her chair. She started yelling at me loudly, emotionally, not holding back at all. She shouted that I had plenty of money, that there was no reason I couldn't afford to pay for her college. She said I was just being spiteful and cruel for no reason. She accused me of turning my back on her now that her father was gone. Then She went even further and she screamed that this was exactly why she had never liked me. She called me a conniving woman and said I had tricked both her and her father. According to her, I had lied when I once said I would pay for her tuition, and now I was going back on my word just to hurt her. Hearing her say those things broke something in me. That was the moment I told her the truth, that I had read her father's letter. I said it calmly. I wasn't angry or yelling. I just wanted her to know. I explained that I hadn't gone looking for it. It was sitting there, opened on her desk. And in a moment of missing him, I picked it up. I thought it would bring me comfort. Instead, it shattered the image I had of the man I married. Then I told her something else, that I had been testing her when I said I couldn't pay for her college. I wanted to see how she would react, and sadly, her response, the way she had quickly turned cold and entitled, only confirmed what the letter hinted at, that she was, in many ways, just like her father, expecting things, demanding things, using my kindness and love as leverage. I looked her in the eye and said that if she truly believed I was conniving and cruel as she claimed, then I saw no reason to try to change her mind. I told her I was done. I told her that once she turned 18, she'd be on her own, that I would no longer carry the weight of her anger, her blame, or her expectations. I said very clearly and without bitterness that I was washing my hands of her. And that's when she lost control. She went into full-blown rage, hurling curse words at me, just like she'd done before whenever things didn't go her way. Then she started throwing things across the room, books, pillows, whatever she could grab. In her fury, she punched my laptop so hard, the screen cracked and went black. She continued to scream that she still wished it had been me who died instead of her father. That if I had died, her father would have taken my money and the two of them would have lived happily ever after without me. Those words hit like a blow to the chest, because the terrifying truth is that she's right. If I had died first, my husband would have gotten my money because I never doubted him and would have wanted him to have everything. It makes me sick to admit it, but I shudder to think how foolish, how completely naive I was. I really believed that love, support, and care would be enough to earn my husband and stepdaughter's trust and affection. I believed I was building a life with a man who loved me back. I thought I was helping raise a girl who one day would see me for who I was, but now it's as if the curtain has been pulled back. I see everything more clearly. In the end, I've made it clear to my stepdaughter that I stand by my words. No matter how much she gets angry or throws a tantrum, I am done giving in to her demands. Update 3. First of all, I just want to say thank you, truly, to everyone who took the time to comment, message, or simply offer some kindness. I've read every single response, and your support has meant more to me than I can put into words. I know many of you were deeply concerned for my well-being, and I want to assure you that I'm okay. I've taken many of your suggestions seriously and started putting steps in place to protect myself. I've installed security cameras in the main areas of the house, the kitchen, living room, hallway, and the entrances. It's not something I ever imagined needing to do, but after everything that's happened, and the way emotions have been escalating with my stepdaughter, I just don't feel safe anymore without an extra layer of protection. These cameras are for my peace of mind and also just in case something does go wrong. I want to be able to protect myself legally and physically. I've also talked to my parents about everything. They were shocked, hurt for me, and furious on my behalf. After hearing all that's been going on, my mom has offered to come and stay with me for a while. She'll be arriving in a couple of days, and I feel like I can finally breathe knowing I won't be alone in the house with my stepdaughter. My mom may be gentle by nature, but she has a quiet strength about her. And just having her presence here will help keep things in check. As for my stepdaughter, she's only going to be here for a few more months. She'll be 18 soon, and once that day comes, I'm no longer responsible for her. Until then, I will continue to support her basic needs like food and shelter because I want to leave this chapter with my dignity intact. I refuse to sink to her level, no matter how cruel or ungrateful she's been. One more important thing, I'll be changing my will. I've already set an appointment to meet with an attorney. If something happens to me, everything will go to my parents. I worked hard for what I have, and I want to make sure that it ends up in the hands of people who have truly cared for me, not in the hands of someone who sees me as nothing more than a bank account. Stay tuned for more stories from Our Girl Relationships.